Good morning and welcome to the Pike County Fiscal Court. This is the second meeting of September. And before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence their cell phones. That includes me. We have a lengthy agenda. I'm going to try to move through the agenda as fast as possible. We have some special guests here today. And with that being said, I would like to ask Brother Teddy Honecker to come up and say the invocation for us, if you would, sir.
Let's all pray. Gracious Heavenly Master, we come to you today, God. Thanking you, Lord, that you've just allowed us to see the light of day today. We thank you, Master, for the health we have. We thank you for the many blessings, God, most of all for Christ Jesus. Master, you know the reason that we're gathered together here today. Would you look down on this gathering, Lord, and would you allow us to accomplish whatever you'd have us do today? Bless everyone to stop and think about what they're saying and the impact it has on everyone else, Lord, when they speak. God, would you just bless each one of us, Lord, to look toward heaven, where every good and perfect gift comes from. Bless these, Lord, officers of the court here today, that they can keep in mind why they're here today, and bless every visitor here today, God. Lord, would you just touch all of our sick folks today and remember them with troubled homes, whatever those troubles may be. All in the end, Lord, would you just let us give you the glory? All we ask in Jesus.
Amen. Brother Teddy, thank you very much. He is somebody that's pretty special to me. He has been a close friend of my family for as long as I can remember, and he actually preached my grandmother and grandfather's funerals. And when my dad was really sick, he was one of the people that was there, and probably one of my dad's best friends. And we love you, and we appreciate you being here. And as you know, we always open and close this fiscal court in prayer. I think that's something that is sorely lacking in Washington and in Frankfurt in a lot of cases, but it's not here. And we appreciate you more than we can express in words. Thank you very much. That brings us to the roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Here.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
Here. We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. And we have a special guest here today, Mr. Hunter Cure, who is a 7th grade student from Elkhorn City Elementary, who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hunter, come on up to the microphone, and we're honored to have you here today. And if you need a school excuse, we can probably make that happen.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands in one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, young man, and you're always welcome to come down, and hopefully you might learn a little bit about county government today. And at the end of the meeting, if you're still here, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have, okay? That brings us to the approval of the minutes from the August 16, 2019 and September 3rd, 2019 minutes of the Pike County Fiscal Court. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Madam Clerk, I'm going to go ahead and sign these and pass them over to you so that you'll have them already ready to go. First item on the agenda is the presentation of a proclamation for National Gear Up Week, and we have Ms. Tanya Bailey, who's the Associate Program Director. I think Ms. Christina Kaiser, who's an academic interventionist specialist with the Pike County Schools and Gear Up East Kentucky. Would you all come up to the microphone and tell us a little bit about the program, and then I will ask the clerk to read the proclamation. Good morning. you make sure the mic's on and pull them up really close because they're not exactly. And for the record, would you please state your name so that way the clerk has that and the folks out here who are watching will know who you are.
Okay, you go ahead.
Christina Kaiser.
And I'm Tanya Bailey, and I have just a little something that prepared that I want to say. I'm, like I said, the Associate Project Director for Gear Up East Kentucky. It's our honor for us to be here today, and we want to formally thank you for your proclamation and your recognition of Gear Up and in the work that we do in East Kentucky. We serve students in Pike County, Floyd County, Menifee County, Magoffin County, and Wolfe County, so it's a pretty large area. Gear Up's mission is that all Appalachian students succeed. We hope that we can do that by helping students turn their hopes and their dreams into reality through education. And we do that by placing academic interventionists in each school that we serve. And it's their job, like Ms. Kaiser's job, is to help students with reading skills and math skills so that they're more prepared for high school and for college once they get there. We have college and career navigators whose job it is to navigate their way through, help students navigate their way through the barriers that they face to be able to get to college and to be successful in college. We assist families too. We educate parents about how to help get their students, their kids to college through scholarships. We talk to them about financial aid and just all the things that they might not know if their students are first-generation college students especially. We assist families. We help develop leadership skills in students. And our hope is that all this work that we're doing will benefit the students and the families and Eastern Kentucky as a whole. Our job is to make Eastern Kentucky a more positive, better place to live through education of our students. We want to show our students that although they face barriers, that there's a world out there and there's a wealth of knowledge that they can attain and that they can come back here and work and have great jobs and just make Appalachia a better place to be. Once again, we want to thank you for having us here today, and we appreciate you very much. I should probably say that we are funded through Berea College and a grant through the federal government. So we're just, good people trying to do what's best for kids.
Well, first of all, Ms. Kaiser, would you like to add anything?
Well, I was a classroom teacher for well over a decade, and I had been saying for the last several years how I wish there was a program that was between a special education classroom and a regular classroom to get these kids, they're referred as gap kids, those that are struggling, but they don't fit in column A or B. And when this job came along, I jumped at the chance to do that. And I have seen tremendous growth in the past year in my students. And Hunter actually is part of our Gear Up Club at Elkhorn City Elementary. I service students there and at East Ridge High School.
We serve students in grades 3 through 9. We're a cohort model. We started year before last with first grade through 7th grade. So our mission is to follow that same cohort of students all the way through their first year of college. So we're trying to give them the skills to succeed and following them through that to make sure they graduate high school and that they get into college successfully. And I keep saying we. And I feel like we're leaving out probably the most important people. We're not doing this work alone. We're doing it in conjunction with schools and with teachers who do, I believe, the most important job in this world. I'm a former teacher too, and I taught for 10 years and then retired from Floyd County Schools. So we got to give credit where credit is due, I think, and those teachers in those schools are doing the hard work.
Well, just before we have the proclamation read, my mother-in-law is a retired teacher. My grandfather was a teacher. My uncle, my late uncle, was a retired teacher. None of us will be here but for teachers, but for educators. And it is a very thankless job, and we've seen the problems that we see in our society are in our schools too, whether it's drugs, whether it's, the kids who are victims of domestic abuse, child abuse, what they see in the home, and that all comes into to the schools. And this fiscal court has worked to make sure that our sheriff here in Pike County, every high school now has a sworn officer, and I think Sheriff Scott would say, but for the assistance that this court has given to the sheriff's office, that wouldn't be possible. And, you know, I graduated from high school in the 1980s, and when I went to college, there were classes that I wasn't prepared for. Now, one of the big problems that I've recognized, and if you looked at the number of kids at that time that were having to have remedial classes in math and science, it was really in the 60 or 70% range. The biggest problem was there were kids, if they fell behind at that time, there were no programs like Gear Up to help them catch up. And it's really easy when you're talking about math or science to get behind. And once you get behind, because it all builds on each other, I think you would agree.
You are very behind.
You are very
Hard to
behind.
catch
It
up.
doesn't take very long.
Exactly.
And I always tell, you know, being married to a physician, tell her, you know, if I'd been better in math, I probably would have been a neurosurgeon instead of a lawyer. So this is a very good program, and we're pleased to be able to present the proclamation. Hopefully people will be more aware of the program, and hopefully students like Hunter will be able to take advantage of this, and we hope he has we know he has a bright future ahead of him. It's going to take a lot of work, but nothing worthwhile comes easy. So Madam Clerk, would you please read the proclamation for the folks who are here today, as well as the folks watching on television?
Proclamation declaring September 23rd through the 27th, 2019 as National Gear Up Week in Pike County. Whereas the Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs, Gear Up, is a federally funded competitive grant program designed to increase the number of low-income students who are prepared to enter and succeed in post-secondary educations, and whereas Gear Up serves low-income, minority, and disadvantaged students and their families from underserved communities who might be the first person in their family to go to college. Should have brought my glasses. Whereas Gear Up includes interventions such as tutoring, mentoring, rigorous academic preparation, financial education, and college scholarships to improve access to higher education for low-income, minority, and disadvantaged first-generation students and their families. And whereas Gear Up is built around public-private partnerships, enlisting the formidable resources of government, business, and community groups to support low-income students as they prepare to enter and succeed in college. And whereas Gear Up East Kentucky is a partnership of school districts in Floyd, Magoffin, Menifee, Pike, and Wolfe counties, and Berea College, Partners for Education, serving 5,833 students. Whereas Gear Up East Kentucky serves 3,509 students in grades 3 through 9 in Pike County, and whereas the week of September 23rd, 2019 has been declared National Gear Up Week, and whereas Pike County is committed to providing a quality education for all students, helping them to achieve their highest potential. Now, therefore, Pike County Judge Executive and the Pike County Fiscal Court do hereby proclaim the week of September 23rd, 2019 as National Gear Up Week in Pike County. And we urge all citizens to join us in this special observance.
And this proclamation has been signed by myself and Commissioners Ronnie Robertson, Jason Tackett, and Brian Booth, and was done so on the 17th day, today on the 17th day of September 2019. And so the proclamation has been done. If you all would like to come up front, we'll get the commissioners and myself down for a photograph. We'll stand at ease for just a moment.
you. Hi, Bill. How are you? Everybody makes fun of me.
Hey, Ron. All right, we're back in, and we're going to jump around just briefly before I ask Mr. Hickman to come up. We have on the agenda, if I can find it, the highway contract. We're going to go to the fifth item on our agenda. And as you know, this court has worked diligently to obtain state and federal funds for various projects. And one of the issues that, a lot of people have been very happy about the condition of Fish Trap Lake. And that money was, that cleanup at Fish Trap Lake was made possible because we applied for and received a state grant for cleaning up illegal open dumps, and also because this court entered into a collaborative agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they contributed to that project. I have recently been criticized for reaching out to the governor's office and asking for help, and then expressing my thanks when we received help. And I will make no apologies to anyone for working with whoever is in the governor's office, whoever's in the White House, whoever our congressmen and United States senators are. This county has significant infrastructure problems. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about needs over at the Grapevine Community Park. That's just one example of the needs that we have, and really inadequate resources to address it. Mr. Williamson, our Public Works Supervisor, has been asked to do almost an impossible job with roughly 8 employees to take care of the courthouse and every park, playground, community building, fire department, and senior citizen building in this county. Again, we've talked about the use of inmate labor to help make sure that we can keep these facilities open. Since I've been judge, I have asked the administration for help on 2 large projects. One could potentially have a significant economic development impact on this county, and that is the Coal Run. It's the Leviza Fort 202 flood mitigation program. In order for us to enter into a contract with the Army Corps of Engineers, the county had to come up with about $660,000, and that was money we simply could not pull out of our budget to do. And Judge Hickman and I went down along with State Representative Angie Hatton. I think State Representative John Blanton was there. I think State Representative Ashley Tackett Lafferty came in. We had a bipartisan group. We had representatives from Congressman Rogers' office there, and members of the Army Corps of Engineers, representatives from both the Huntington District and the Nashville District. Was there also someone from the Louisville office there, I think also? Nashville. Mr. Kaiser went down, our floodplain coordinator, and we were able to get state funds without using any county money to enter into that contract. Right now, we're simply waiting on the Corps to finish the contract. They said it would take a few months to do that. So once that agreement is entered into, we will be able then to go back to the state and ask them to help cover the 5% cost. Now, The first part of that project is a $120 million flood wall that will protect a large part of Coal Run. That is a significant construction project that will take place right here in this county and will create an opportunity for local businesses, construction workers, people who are out of work to be able to find a federal scale wage job right here in Pike County. When you hear of a $110, $115, $120 million project, there aren't very many of those projects on the drawing board for Pike County. But for the Department of Local Government helping with that $660,000 roughly, we would not be able to even look into this project. We wouldn't be able to take one step forward. And that project is 95% funded by the federal government. It will be 5% funded by the local entity. And we have a tentative agreement that the State Department of Local Government will pay 95% of our 5%. So the benefit that that project would have on Pike County and Coal Run is substantial. And once that flood wall is completed, then they will move on to other property acquisitions or relocation, raising of properties on the Leviza Fork, and then after that's done, the tributaries. But some people were skeptical and said, well, you know, there's no money appropriated for that. Well, the Corps is not going to ask for money for that project until we have a signed agreement and we've paid our part of the money. They've already, by the time we enter a contract, the Corps will have spent about $12 million on this project. And we have to have a signed contract in place before they're going to go to Congress and say we need money for the Leviza Fork. Now, some people might say, well, this project will never happen. But if you go look at the Tug Fork, it's happened. There have been hundreds of pieces of property that have been purchased, homes raised and flood-proofed. There's been a flood wall constructed at South Williamson. It's the same kind of project, and it has the potential to have a substantial economic impact, plus protect the investments of so many homeowners and business owners in their businesses and homes from flooding. We haven't had a river flood in a while, but as you know, the chances that we will, it's going to happen sooner or later. The other issue is we received, and we're going to sign here in a moment, I'm going to ask the court to approve a contract with the Transportation Cabinet. The item on the agenda is the adoption of a resolution approving the execution of a memorandum of agreement with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Highways in the amount of $936,000 to resurface and patch Road Fork, CR 1286, Sycamore Mountain Road, CR 1350Q4, Ford Mountain Road, CR 1364Q4, and Right Fork of Brushy Road, CR 1360Q4. Now, let me talk to you about this. $936,000 of money, not budgeted. This is discretionary money coming straight from the State Transportation Cabinet. That is money that this county, if we had not asked for it, we would never have received. And look, I fought with this governor for 4 years as a minority leader in the state Senate. And I'm no longer in that position. My responsibility is to make sure that we can take care of the 1,200 miles of county roads, that we can pick up garbage for nearly 20,000 customers, that we can take care of our fire departments and keep our senior citizen centers open, keep our parks and playgrounds open, and our community buildings open, take care of all the infrastructure we have, make sure our sheriff's office is fully funded, and to make sure that the jail has the resources it needs. Those are not partisan issues. Whether we take care of a road isn't a Democrat issue, a Republican issue, or an independent issue. And I will, and this court, I believe, will support me on this, will reach out to whoever can help Pike County. And some people said, well, it was an election year. I don't care if it's an election year or not. We're getting $936,000 to address 4 major road issues that we would otherwise never have been able to take care of. And these are some of the reason it's these 4 roads, they're the absolute 4 four of the absolute worst in the county. This wasn't done for political reasons. We had Mr. Little, the road supervisor, and Gray Tomlin spend a day with each other together, driving around the county looking at various projects. We had asked for $1.6 million. We didn't get that, but we got close to $1 million. And it's going to let us take care of some very pressing needs in some of the most dangerous roads. This is about potentially saving somebody's life. If you drive across Ford Mountain and you look at the condition of that road and you think, how would you like to have to haul your kids across that mountain every day to school or go across that mountain every day to work? It's not been touched. It's got areas where there's no guardrail, where there's embankment failures, and the asphalt is in deplorable condition. And as many of you know, that's where our landfill is located. That does not help the situation. I think this is something that needs to be pointed out. And I'll take the criticism because Pike County received $936,000. And I will submit to you that is more than any other county in the state received in discretionary road money. More than any other county. And this administration had no reason to help me. I have fought with them. I've disagreed with them on a lot of issues, from the pension to public education to civil justice issues. But my responsibility is not, I'm no longer the Senate Democratic floor leader. My responsibility as Pike County Judge Executive is to work with whoever will help address the immediate needs of this county. And I believe that is the same, and I'm going to defer to the members of the court here momentarily to comment on this. We cannot address these issues like fish trap, issues with our roads. We can't address those issues without help. We're too far in a hole, and there's some other issues that we're going to talk about here today, where another issue is the 911 system that has been neglected. We're running right now about $156,000 shortfall in our 911 on a 911 board. And we'll talk about how we got there in a few minutes. But we're going to continue to reach out to whoever we can to get money for this county. One of the issues that I had a conversation with Congressman Rogers, picture was on Facebook. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I've been in his ear pretty hard, spent about 15 minutes with him talking about the Wolf Pit industrial site. And we're going to get together. I'm going to get together with his district director so we can start working to get the $5 million it's going to take to put the infrastructure in that industrial site. And I want to, one other issue that needs to be pointed out, this is the largest geographical county in Kentucky, and we do not have a county-owned industrial site. There's an industrial site in Martin County. There's an industrial site in Letcher County. Pike County doesn't have an industrial site, and some people say, well, what about where EQT's at? Well, it's too small. It's not being compacted for industrial use, and the cost to get water and sewer that would be necessary for commercial development would be somewhere in the $6 to $8 million range. There was a proposal up there a few years ago to spend $1 million of coal severance tax to build a spec building. Well, you could spend $1 million to build a spec building, but if you don't have water and sewer, it's not going to do you much good. So I would just like to defer. We'll start, if any of the members of the court would like to address this issue before we act on item number 5, you have the floor.
Judge, I think that you have to work with whoever to get money into this county. When we go to these meetings, it's not just Pike County, every county in the state has got issues other than Fayette County and maybe a couple more. And whatever it takes to get the money into this county to better our roads, to better our community, then we have to do it and work with whoever we have to work with. I agree with you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I was elected by Pike County people to do a job, and it doesn't make any difference what we do or who we have to meet with or who we have to talk to bring money back to Pike County. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm sure the judge is and the other 2 commissioners sitting here with me. If you don't go after it, it's not going to come here. We have to go get the money to bring it back here. And we've been criticized a little bit because we work with the other party. You know, Republicans and Democrats are all in Pike County. It's all to benefit Pike County. And I just want you all to think about that. Thank you.
Commissioner Tackett?
I just want to, we're going to work with who we have to, because I have not yet seen a dollar that's got a side. Everybody wants to spend it, you know, and that's what we need, the worst in Pike County, is money to move this county forward. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Is there a motion for an adoption of a resolution approving the execution of a memorandum of agreement with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Highways in the amount of $936,000 to resurface Road Fork, Sycamore, Ford Mountain, and Right Fork of Brush?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, and I am signing the agreement, and this agreement does have a couple of changes that need to be made. Mr. Little has talked to the Transportation Cabinet. There's a couple issues that have to be clarified because $610,000 will be spent on Ford Mountain. We have to clarify that we can spend money for guardrail and embankment failure repairs. Still, it's got to be drilled and so forth. So, Mr. Little, the agreement's signed, and I think this is going to be overnighted back to the cabinet, and then we'll get with Mr. Fannin to decide whether, you know, what elements of this. We've already got a bid in place for the resurfacing, but we need to probably put a bid out for the guardrail. We've already got a contract on the embankment failure repairs. So if you would, go ahead and get with the asphalt provider and with the company that we've contracted with on the King Drilling, and go ahead and let's get estimates on the Ford Mountain site so we can move forward with this. I would like to get this done before the asphalt plant closes because, you know, before we go into winter and we have people going across that mountain during another winter, let's see what we can get done before then.
Okay, we'll do it.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is we're going to move to Mr. Bill Hickman, who is the chairman of the Pike County Airport Board. Bill, would you please come up for us? And this is item 3 on the agenda. And Mr. Hickman, would you please introduce yourself and tell the folks what your position is and how long you've been in that position?
That's a dangerous question. I'm not sure I know how long I've been there. My name's Bill Hickman. I'm chairman of the board of the Pike County Airport. I've been on the board for about 12 years and been chairman for around 10 years. And I'm happy to say that we've not solicited any money from your all's budget the entire time I've been there and don't plan to in the future. I'm not asking for a tax increase. I'm not asking for money. We so far have been blessed with being able to take care of ourselves because of a decision made by Mayor Hamley back in the early 60s. Our present budget, as presented, calls for a negative cash flow of approximately $4,000. Since that budget was approved by the board of directors at the airport, we've raised a number of fees and we have covered that deficit. So for this year, we're not projecting any negative cash flow. We have over $4 million in reserve for capital improvements at the airport. Presently, we're doing a study on the runway, a geotechnical study, to determine what future runway maintenance and repairs will be necessary. We have the funds to match all local government funding requirements for any amount of money that would be. So you can rest assured that I won't be back asking for money for that. The local contribution is 2.5%, and the state puts in 7.5%, And as you said, Judge, we solicit bipartisan help all the time. I've been through Republican governors and I've been through Democratic governors, and they have given us the help we needed every single time we needed it.
Well, as a lot of folks know, you and I have practiced law together for a long time, and you were put on the board long before I became judge. You have the board members are confirmed. You get 3 from the county, 3 from the city, and both the city commission, the mayor and city commission, and myself and the fiscal court have to confirm the members. But one of the things that a lot of people don't really get to talk about at the airport and what an asset it is, because we literally have people fly in from all over the country who are coming in to do business, whether it's the hospital, whether it's the coal industry, whether it's natural gas, Kellogg's. And under your leadership, I just want to just summarize some of the things that have been done, because you had some folks on the board that, in my opinion, were disruptive. When we had the Appalachian Air Service that we didn't have to really put any local money into, you had folks on the board. I think it's fair to say that at least one board member was trying to torpedo that project from day one. The airport board has money because of coal royalties. It's not a taxing district. Am I correct on that?
It can be, but it's not, and I don't expect it ever will be in Pike County.
So the money that's in the bank is money that the airport board received from coal royalties and the sale of property that has been used to sort of subsidize the airport.
That's correct.
Okay. And at one time, I believe there was even an issue where the fiscal court was insuring the airport board, and that the airport board was insuring it through the same agent, and that was through CAECO. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You would think that CAECO would have recognized that at some point in time before it had to be brought to their attention. It really is remarkable. If you look at the budget, it does show that there's a net operating loss of $302,008. But if you take the depreciation off, that loss really is about $3,700. And I know the new fees clearly should cover that, wouldn't you think?
It would definitely cover it, and depreciation expense is pretty much irrelevant to the airport because that depreciation is on buildings that the FAA funds as part of their grant program. So the local part of that is very, very small.
And before I turn it over to the members of the court for questions, I just want to run through some of the things that since you've been done. When you took over, you had aircraft that were sitting outside with no hangars. And one of the ways the airport generates revenue is to rent hangars to owners or folks who own aircraft. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So you were able to build a new set of hangars. You were able to get a grant for a new AWOS system from the state, which is the weather observation system that pilots use when they're using the facility. You were able to fix a major electrical problem at the airport where the runway end identification lights and the runway and taxiway lights were not working and would only work intermittently. How much was that project?
I don't remember the amount, but it was a lot.
And that is a safety issue because if you're coming in there at night and there's no runway lights, then you were able to get the runway resurfaced, restriped, and I think, are you still working on, one of the issues I know that you've worked on is to get a grant to open the shorter runway, the north-south runway 2 and 20. And that's something you got turned down for the AML funding this year, but now that you have a new administration here, I'd like for you to get with Ms. Hall, and I'd like to set a meeting up with Congressman Rogers, because that is another safety issue. If you've got a strong wind out of the north or south, it can be, some aircraft simply can't get in there, and it is a safety factor to have a north-south runway open back up. But we appreciate the service. Are there any questions before we act on the acknowledgement of the Pikeville-Pike County Airport Board budget?
I would like to point out that our biggest customer is the medical center. We have lots of traffic for transplant of organs. We even last week had an organ donor or an organ recipient fly to Vanderbilt University on very short notice in order to receive a life-saving transplant. So it's not just business, it's also life-saving services.
And it's not unusual to see aircraft from Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic, people either, come, patients being transferred out, and like you said, the organ donor issue. So it is a matter of life or death. So is there a motion to acknowledge the Pike County Airport Board budget for 2019, 2020?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Judge Hitt, would you like to ask your brother anything?
No, sir.
He's not under oath, so it,
I'm afraid I might be.
all right. Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Bill, thanks a lot. Keep up the good work.
Thank you all for your support.
We're going to go back to the second item on the agenda. It's the appointment of Connie Justice as a community liaison for the Grapevine Community Park. Connie, could you come on up and to the microphone just real quick, and we'll talk about the Grapevine Park for just a minute. You have some other folks? Come on up. You left one very special lady in the back that,
Connie, you want Jeff to come up? Connie, you want Jeff to come up too?
Ellen, she's worked hard. Jeff worked hard too, though.
that's why I asked you to come up. Connie, start out with telling, so we have it for the record, telling us your name and who all's with you today.
My name is Connie Justice, with Pam Walton, Helen Justice, and Judy Fields.
Welcome. And first of all, let me thank you all for your interest and your dedication to the Grapevine Park. A couple, 3 weeks ago, Judge Hickman, myself, and Mr. Williamson went over to take a look at it. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When we went over there, the park was in pretty bad condition. And I know that since then that there has been a community cleanup, and there's been a group of students from Pike that came in to help, and I think you see Commissioner Booth there. Tell us a little bit, those are our students that came in to help, and tell us a little bit about what you were able to accomplish over there and how much improvement you've seen.
Like you said, the park was in pretty rough shape. The little group that was started was basically we were wanting to get together to do some stuff in the community, such as cooking for funerals and being there for people. I wasn't present, but 4 of the ladies went and cleaned the community center. It was in pretty rough shape too. They have cleaned it really well, and Paul has come and repaired the bathroom. So then the next project was our park. It still needs a lot, but the work that was done on it was amazing. It's improved it tremendously. I work at the post office. People comes in all the time saying how good it looks, and we still got a long way to go. We want to start doing things to try to help earn the money to get it repaired. Our walking track has to be redone. At times it's dangerous because it's really slick down there under those trees. Repair the playground equipment. We need some, just some minor work done, but what has been done is it's just amazing, that the difference that you can tell in it. I was supposed to have sent Jeannie some before pictures, and I forgot. Well, actually, I can't get them to pull up. I can't find them. To show the difference before and after. And everybody worked really hard. We want to especially thank the Pike. Those kids were tremendous. They come and they worked all day. They scrubbed and did whatever they was asked to do, they did it. And we really, really appreciate them.
Well, this park at Grapevine is, a lot of our parks are in bad shape. And, there's some things that I think were done over there that probably, in the area where the putt-putt course is at, when they paved in between it, it's an eyesore, it looks bad. The walking track absolutely needs to be done. And what the problem we have, and I think you recognize this because your husband being, in management for the fiscal court, the biggest problem that we have is we do not have the resources financially to do the work on the parks that needs to be done. I mean, we could probably do it, but it's going to force us into a situation down the road where we're going to be making layoffs. And, we've all acknowledged the fact that at some point, if we continue to lose population, the coal service was down 80,000 below what we had budgeted for the first quarter. If that continues, all bets are off when it comes to what facilities stay open and what don't. This park is going to need community involvement and help to stay open. I'm not real happy with the caretaker over there. There were cigarette butts all around the place. And as you're sitting here, I'm going to tell Mr. Williamson that if that continues, that we're going to be looking for another caretaker. So I think that needs to be addressed immediately. And I think the situation. I wasn't real happy when I went over there. What I'm going to ask is if Mr. Williamson would put a budget together, a proposed estimate on what it will cost to do some of the repairs over there. We went over there because one of the buildings that had been built didn't have gutters on it. A lot of the boards are rotted out around the bottom. The little concession stand area, it's in pretty bad shape and had appliances in it that probably were a fire hazard. So we need to take a look at what needs to be done to the infrastructure. I have put it on the agenda to name you as a community liaison. I know you all want to raise money to help with the park. I'm not sure how we can legally do that, and Frankie may have Frankie, they're wanting to do some fundraisers. And I don't know if this is better directed to Kevin or to Frankie. They're wanting to raise some money to spend on the park. I'm not sure what the proper way to go about that is. Do you have any suggestions, or Kevin have any suggestions on that?
If I was going to speak as treasurer, I would say that the funds be received by the county and then we pay the expenses for the repairs. That way you've got a paper trail of money coming in, money going out, as far as the county's interest on it. If they start to do it as their own, they're going to get into being tax exempt, setting up their own nonprofit corporation and things like that to run it through. And then, it would just save a whole lot of headache on their part and ours to just run it.
What we have to be careful about, my concern, is that there's no question that, if money is raised, where it goes and how it's spent and how it's accounted for, because, when the auditors come in, they look at that. If you are having fundraisers and they say, well, where'd this money come from? What safeguards? How do you know that this is what was raised? How do you know? Because the auditors can be fairly technical on those kind of issues. So let's do this. Let's get Paul to get us an estimate together. You can get us a proposal together, what you all want to do, and then we could come back before the court, because we're getting ready to act on naming you as a community liaison, to where you could come back, give us a proposal, and then we could have some time to figure out how that needs to be worked out. The summer's almost over, but if some money could be raised this year, if we could set some money aside, a lot of this work we can do in-house. I think Paul can use his crew to do the resurface the walking track. To me, the biggest thing is just the eyesore from all this blacktop that should be, is an area where it should be. Most parks where you want kids to play don't have asphalt, everywhere. And there are areas where the asphalt has buckled, where it's a safety issue, and that's something that we're going to have to address too. I wouldn't even mind looking at what it would cost to take all the asphalt up in those areas, because it'd be a lot easier just to cut the grass and be a lot safer if you had a kid running or something like that. There are some safety issues over there that I think I pointed out that day. We need to look to see if we can get and this is something Ms. Hall can do, to get a crumb rubber grant that we can use to put around that playground equipment. I think the standard of care now would be to have, instead of having wood chips, would be to have crumb rubber that's much more energy absorbent in the case a child falls. So you can see that is not, just looking at that, that is not an appropriate way to construct a playground. And maybe that's the personal injury lawyer in me, but I've seen what happens when you have those kind of safety conditions, and we're going to have to address that, and we're going to try to do it quickly. So, Mr. Williamson, if you'll get us an estimate, get with Sharon on the crumb rubber, I would make a motion that we name Connie Justice as the community liaison to work with the court to address the needs and the issues at the Grapevine Community Park. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion?
Judge, while we're talking about the Grapevine Park over there, the Corps of Engineers is looking for somebody, well, they probably have to, they're wanting to give us the campground over there, lease it to us. Now, the reason I brought this up, in our trail system, I remember that campground over there completely full on the weekends with campers. And I think where the trail system goes in, that would be used a whole lot, you know, by the side-by-side riders if they come in here and camp.
If they wanted to lease it to us, we would need to know exactly what it's going to cost us to keep it up, because
I agree. I know we don't have the money to do that, and we would probably also have to have somebody over there that lives at the campground.
and you also, you know, Judge Hickman and I talked about this when we were over there, because we rode down into the lake. It's a lot cleaner than it's ever been.
Yeah, I was over there last week.
And I think that the efforts to clean the lake up are working. The question I always had was, you know, why do you have two parks that close together? Because there's a lot of the same kind of playground equipment inside the core area. And, you know, it's sort of, maybe it's something that should have been in the past worked out with the Corps and the county to where we didn't duplicate that service. They're taking care of a park and playground a few hundred yards from where ours is at. But there's a lot of work, Connie, that's got to be done at Grapevine. And it is in really bad shape, but it's not alone. And we appreciate what you are doing. And, you know, we got a court that's willing to do what we have to do to fix this infrastructure. And I thank them for that. Commissioner Tackett, did you have anything? Before we vote on this, I want to thank Commissioner Booth. He got me one complaint one day. He was out hauling mulch, and a lady called and said, "There's a county truck getting mulch everywhere." But mulch, if that's the worst thing we got to deal with, then so be it. But he worked really hard with the volunteers and the students, and I think Commissioner Booth deserves a debt of gratitude and our appreciation. So thank you all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. The next item is the acknowledgement of the receipt of the Pike County Conservation District 2019 tax rate. This is the same tax rate as the last 2 fiscal years, 2018 and 2017. It is not raising. And while we're on this subject, at some point, we're going to have a discussion. We may add it to the agenda to address. We did receive the compensating rate information this past week from the Department of Local Government, and something that we're going to have to look at. I do have a meeting today with representatives from the Pike County Library Board, and I think this is something that, Bobby, don't leave. I want you to hear this. The Pike County Library Board, their tax rate is 13.9 cents per hundred. The fiscal courts is 18 cents per hundred. So if you look at the amount of services that the fiscal court has to provide and the infrastructure we have to maintain versus what the library board does, I don't think that it is fair for them to have a tax rate that is that close to ours. Now, we all support the libraries, but we're also in a situation where I don't believe that the taxpayers of this county can shoulder an additional burden of raising property taxes. The real property rates, so the public will know, the real property rates for 2018 for the fiscal court's 18 cents. For the soil conservation is about, it's almost a penny. The health department is 6 cents. The Pike County Extension Office is 3 cents. The library district is 13.9 cents. The school board is 88.7 cents, and the Pikeville Independent Board is 74 cents. And some of these entities have not set their tax rates yet. We probably will not act on that until October, the October meeting. So just by way of comparison, I don't quite think it's fair for the library district to have, they're out buying property up, and we're trying to come up with money to take care of essential services like fire departments and senior citizen centers. So in any event, those are the rates, and we'll have another discussion. I'll update the folks once I have the meeting with the library board today. So is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Pike County Conservation District's 2019 tax rate? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. We have an issue that I do want to bring up. We have Mr. Billy Rowe, who is with Total Pharmacy Care, and it's not on the agenda. Billy, he came to me and asked me if I would address something with the court. My office, I always pay for my employees that need a flu shot. It bills to their insurance. If they don't have insurance, I pay for it, because the worst thing that can happen is if you have an employee, and Kevin will tell you, if you have one employee that gets the flu, it usually goes through the entire office and it shuts you down for several days. He has a proposal. Billy, would you like to come up and just briefly address this real quick? Yeah, that'd be fine. And it's a voluntary program. Doesn't cost us anything. Would you please just introduce yourself and tell us I won't leave you sitting here. I know you've probably got work to do. Would you please just give us
Yes, my name's Billy Rowe. I'm with Total Pharmacy Care. We offer an immunization clinics. The biggest barrier to most individuals getting the immunizations they need is the time they have to go to a healthcare provider. We do something unique. We come to you. Come to each one of your buildings where you have employees. We offer this service free. We bring our pharmacist. They give you the immunizations you need. We bill your insurance. Most insurances will pay for all immunizations necessary, cuts down on sick time, makes the county a healthier place. Our goal is to see everybody in Pike County get immunizations.
So now, one of the reasons I wanted that you brought this up, you have a pharmacy in Pikeville, but you also have some out in the county. Is that right?
Yes, we have one in Belfry, one in Phelps. We also have 2 in Floyd County. But we also partner with Nova Pharmacy and Caramore Pharmacy at Dorton. They are in the immunizations with us. We go out. We currently do the Floyd County school systems. We're looking to do the Pike County school systems. But our goal is to have every person get a flu shot if they desire so. Pike County does not have the best record as far as immunizations go. We were able to take one private industry that we dealt with. Their immunization rate was 25%. We were able to go to all their locations and increase their immunization rate to 75%.
And I think that the cost of a flu shot's about $25.
Yes, that would be correct. If it were to be cash, it'd be $25. But most people's insurances will cover a flu shot every year.
And have you billed the county insurance for that before, I believe?
Yes, we have.
It would be my recommendation that we give Total Pharmacy authorization to contact county workers to see if they're interested. It's voluntary, they don't have to do it. They have an option if they wanted to go to the health department, if they want to go to their family doctor. But as you know, during the workday, if you have people, most people don't think about a flu shot till they get sick.
That is so true. And then it's, of course, too late, but.
And I ended up with the flu about 20 years ago, and I've had a flu shot every year since. So would there be a motion to authorize Total Pharmacy Care to reach out to the county employees to see if they want to participate in the program? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? You might want to start here, because if this bunch gets sick, the whole thing will shut down. So,
That's true. It's hard to spend money without your all's permission.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
I would like to thank you all.
And we appreciate the fact that you've got pharmacies in the county employing people and contributing to the county's tax base. We appreciate that.
Well, home county, we got to love it.
We'll see you. Thank you, sir. The next item is the second reading of an ordinance approving a lease with the county, with Community Trust Bank for the financing of 10 Mack trucks and authorization to execute various documents related to the lease. And this is the Mack truck lease program that we've been making money on. Mr. King, would you please present the second reading?
As you know, Judge, this is second reading, so a motion vote will be in order. This is an ordinance approving a lease for the financing of 10 vehicles, approving the lease, creating a sinking fund, and authorizing the execution of the various pertinent documents to enter into this. The principal amount of the lease will be $1.5 million, and the remainder of the document is on file in the judge's office, should anybody want to read it.
All right. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance approving the lease with Community Trust Bank for the financing of 10 Mack trucks and authorization to execute the various documents related to the lease?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. The next item on the agenda is an authorization to execute a contract for a surplus property auction and approval for payment. We have Mr. Dustin Ramsey here, who is with Coalfield Auctions, and he has done some auctioneer work for the county before. Dustin, just have a seat there. I noticed on your list that you have an auction date of October 12th. Is there any way we can be ready for that by that time, Commissioners?
I think we need to talk to JJ. Can we get ready by that time, JJ?
Can we be ready, Reggie? I think it's too quick.
Well, I guess we need to go to Fabian. Anything we've got surplus, can we get it brought to the county garage by that time?
Well, typically when we have these auctions, like in our last heavy equipment auction that we did, they had 2 extra pieces of equipment that sold for the most monies during the auction. We actually had to do a separated auction because this auction consisted of reserves on these items. And we was able to bring those to auction, meet the reserves, get everything in the auction sold, apart from the absolute auction, which everything becomes sold.
Dustin, what he was asking was Fabian Little behind you, if he could get the surplus equipment ready.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Well, it's October 12th.
That would be a little close, honestly, if I'm being honest.
There's no point in rushing. I mean, how about moving it back 2 weeks? That gives us
Into October.
into October. And
Yeah, because I think we've got some surplus stuff we need to get out and get gathered up and brought to the garage over on Ford Mountain.
And here's what we need to do. JJ, I need you to get a list together for us of what we're going to auction. Ronnie, do we need to think about auctioning some of those single cab trucks and solid waste, or what do you want to do on those?
Well, yeah, if we can figure out some way to get some replacement trucks before then.
Okay. So, let's get the list together and let's move it back 2 weeks. Would that work okay? Would that work, Dustin?
Sure, that'd be fine. I actually recommend that if we're going to delay it, put it off till November the 2nd. That's the first weekend of the month. And I'll say, I believe I told you right. Hang on a second. Yeah, it is. Yeah, November the 2nd would be the first Saturday of that month. And the only reason I do that, that's not to benefit our heavy equipment sales or our vehicle sales, but by our smaller contents in the auction, we typically have small hand tools, different things of that genre within the garage itself. And if we can get toward the first of the month, that'll typically help us out on gaining more money per lot on those smaller things that we sell. So
I think that would be a lot better, don't you, Fabian, JJ? It gives.
It will for me.
that means we would have to have a separated auction within the same day, and we can do that. That would be a separated contract. We cannot have an absolute auction, sell everything for absolute, and then say, okay, we've got one piece of equipment here we've got a reserve on. That means we have to have a totally separate auction, which we can. We just have to disclose to the bidders the day of that we have a separate auction. This auction's closing. We're opening up another one now.
So what you're saying is if we set a reserve on some of this stuff, that we would need to do it in a separate auction?
If we set a reserve on one item, that means that we cannot advertise it as absolute. That's within the auction law. It can't be done. But the auction law does not say that we can't have two auctions in one day. So if I have the absolute auction, sell 75 things in that auction, but I've got one thing I need to have a reserve on, such as we did last time, we close out that auction, we start a new one.
So all we would need to do, and this may be a Mr. Stacy question, is just designate in the list.
I think the only item that we were talking about putting a reserve on maybe would be that Bomag compactor. The 99 Bomag compactor. JJ brought me a list right before the court meeting, and that was about the only item I saw on it that the court may want to put a reserve on. If they don't want to put a reserve on it, I don't see anything else.
And the track hoe?
Track loader, yeah.
So do we need to authorize it?
Mm-hmm. We had a day hoe excavator. That was a ditch cleaner, and it brought the reserve was 11,000. I think we brought 11,500, and then we had a John Deere. I believe that it was a 450 and backhoe, and the reserve I believe on it was 14. We got 14 out of it. So
what we need to do is just say in this authorization is to authorize a motion to execute contract for a surplus property auction, including a reserve auction and approval for payment. Now, let me ask you this. The fee on this is 10%, right?
Correct, sir.
Is that a negotiable fee? Because as you know, the county's in a pretty bad spot.
Well, for what we do in this, what we did do in the beginning, I came to the county and I offered. I said I would charge 7.5% if I make you $100,000. If I don't make you $100,000, you don't owe me a penny. This was my opportunity to show the court that a 23-year-old boy at the time could take on a challenge and make this county some money. And
well, let me ask you this. Would you do it for 8%? Work with me here. We've not voted yet.
I understand, Judge. I'll meet you in the middle at 9. I'm an auctioneer. That's all we do is negotiate.
How about 8.5?
Heard about getting them on 9%, sir.
We got 8.5.
Oh, mercy.
Keep in mind,
8.75, and it's a deal.
8.75. It will be my recommendation that we approve a contract for 8.75%.
Thank you, Judge.
Judge, that'll also
And the reserve, this reserve means everything in this is not junk. So we got some good stuff in here.
Well, I was trying to get him down a little bit lower there, Jason.
I just wanted the people to know, you know, we've sat here for, what, going on 9 months, but we have a lot of stuff needs to be sold.
Yeah.
Fair statement.
Well, our first auction, I was mentioning there earlier, my first opportunity, we raised the county $148,000.
I'll take care of it.
Second auction, we had less pieces of equipment, but we was able to bring the bids up. An overall income increased by 23%. So it's only growing for us, and the reason why is because we offer a service to call everybody on the list that's ever came to our auctions before.
Okay.
So
here's what we're going to do. Is there a motion to hire Dustin Ramsey and Coalfield Auctions to conduct a heavy equipment surplus auction, including an auction with potential reserves on November 2nd, 2019, with the commission, no minimum commission, but a commission of 8.75% of what the sale price is payable within 30 days, and further authorization to spend $1,000 to advertise the auction made payable to Coalfields to allow them to advertise the auction in compliance with various provisions of Kentucky Revised Statute.
Motion.
So it's to clarify, it's $1,000 fee for advertising.
yes, sir.
8.75% of the sale price payable within 30 days. Auction November 2nd, potentially 2 auctions, one an absolute, followed immediately thereby by a auction with the potential reserves on the equipment. So we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, and will you prepare a modified or an agreement to meet the terms that we've agreed on and get it to Jeannie so I'll be able to sign it?
Sure, yeah,
All right, thank you very
that'd be
much.
fine.
All right.
Thank you all.
We'll see you, bye-bye. The next item is authorization to apply for the 2020 Litter Abatement Program grant and approval to execute various documents relating to the grant. This is through the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection, Division of Waste Management. Is there a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item is the authorization to apply for a grant through BB&T Community Reinvestment Act program in the amount of $8,500 and approval to execute various documents. Sharon, can you just briefly come up here? You got 2 minutes. Tell me what we're doing here.
Okay, this money will be used for the Wolf Pit Industrial Site, hope you can hear me, for marketing, signage, in order to us to obtain a tenant.
And I think, isn't it true that Mr. Justin Prater at BB&T helped to make this grant possible? He is on the IDEA board that we've appointed.
That's how I heard about it at the IDEA board meeting.
So we don't have to pay it back. It's a non-repayable grant,
No,
correct?
it's no match, non-payable. We can do all, and next year we can apply for more funding. This was at the end of their funding round, their funding year. This was all that was left.
All right. Is there a motion for authorization to apply for a grant through BB&T Community Reinvestment Act program in the amount of $8,500 and approval to execute various documents related to the grant?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Now, we still have a lot on this agenda. Would anyone be wanting to take a 5-minute break
Motion.
before this next one's going to take a few minutes? All right. The court's going to stand at ease or in recess for a period of 5 minutes until call of the chair. We'll call the court back to order, and the next item is something that I have asked Mr. Vanderbeck to sit in on because I think this is something that the paper needs to be made aware of. And I'd like to ask Doug Tackett, our 911 coordinator and emergency management director, to please come up. And Doug, you have in the packet here, and I'll give this one to Mr. Vanderbeck if he'd like a copy. Jeff, we'll give you this one. This is the packet that was given to the court by Mr. Tackett, so you can share that with. So, Doug, I need you, because I think a lot of folks out there really don't understand how the 911 system is funded, how it operates, how it's administered. So let's start with this. Let me just sort of ask some questions. Okay. There is a board that is that oversees Pike County's 911 system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who is on the board?
On the board is the judge executive, the post commander from Post 9 in Pikeville, the two mayors, one of Elkhorn City, one of Coal Run, the sheriff has a spot on the board, and the member at large from the advisory board, which is Randy Courtney. He chairs the board also.
So then tell the folks out there what the 911 system does. I mean, people know what happens when you dial 911, but how does it operate?
Well, we contract with the Kentucky State Police Post 9 at Pikeville. They answer the calls and they dispatch our fire departments, EMS, and law enforcement for the county. Basically, we put in a radio system where they can talk with our first responders and make sure they've got the information that they need, and keep each other abreast on what's happening on each call.
So, as I understand it, the 911 board pays for a portion or all of the dispatchers' salaries back to the state police. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
With the 911 center being there, they had to hire, I think, 5 additional dispatchers that would take care of the calls we would generate. So we reimbursed the state a portion. Well, we reimbursed them the dispatcher salaries for those 5 dispatchers. We don't have any facility cost. We don't have any equipment cost. We don't have any training cost. The state absorbs all that. If there's an upgrade to the computer-aided dispatch center, that's on them. Same with the phone systems.
So the cost of the equipment, the cost of the radio system that our rescue squads and fire departments use.
Yes.
The ambulance services also use that as well.
Yes, we have an EMS channel as well.
So all of our radio system for our first responders and EMS is operated through the 911 call center.
That's true.
What about the sheriff's office?
The sheriff's office, we maintain their radio system as well.
And how is the 911 office funded? Now, that's the $64 question.
Right. The 911 office is funded with a surcharge on landline telephones.
And
when I started in 95, we were funded by 28,000 phone lines in the county. With population decline through the years and loss of landline telephones as cell phones become more prominent, we're down with Bell South now to 14,000 phone lines countywide, and a handful of smaller telephone companies that sell service in the county, about another 3,000. So about 17,000 phone lines is what we're working with now.
And down from a high of about 28,000.
Yes.
And the rate is $1.41 per month per landline, correct?
That's correct.
So we also, the 911 board also gets 70 cents for each cell phone.
Well, actually, we have a wireless board that administers the wireless money that comes from the state, because it's jointly between Pike and Floyd County.
Okay.
It's the Pike-Floyd Regional Wireless 911 Board.
So that money is split between the two?
Yes, it is. Not necessarily split between the two. We use it predominantly to maintain the services at the post. We pay 75 or 73% of the dispatcher's salaries with that wireless money because 73% of the 911 calls that come in are wireless. They're cell phones.
And there's also money coming in on the wireless side from McGoffin in Martin County.
Yes, that's true, because they do not have certified public safety answering points yet.
So the money from the wireless customers goes directly to this wireless board.
Correct.
And that's a separate board from the 911 board.
Yes, it is.
And there's money coming into it from Martin, McGoffin, Floyd, and Pike County.
That's correct.
And 73% of that money goes to pay the dispatchers because 73% are the wireless calls.
Right.
But there's, as I understand it, we'll lose a portion of that money.
Yes.
So the question becomes, at that point, will losing that money have a direct impact on the 911 system in Pike County?
Yes, it will.
Okay, and how will that happen?
Well, we're not going to be receiving as much money as we did. We just received what's for Floyd and Pike. And Pikeville City and Prestonsburg City both have certified public safety answering points, so they get a portion of the money from those zip code areas in both counties.
So losing these customers that are paying in Martin and McGoffin will have a direct impact on the Pikeville PD?
Yes, it will.
All right. So right now, the way this operates is the fiscal court pays the salaries, advances the salaries and benefits for your salary or half of your salary.
Right, correct.
For the 911 coordinator's job.
Yes.
And does it pay anyone else's salaries besides the dispatch?
It pays my deputy director, which is C.J. Childers. It pays his salary because he's strictly 911.
Okay. So right now, it's my understanding that the 911 board owes the county approximately
it's $389,374.31.
So right now, it's, the debt that's owed to the county is $389,374.31. And the problem is the 911 board doesn't have that much money in the system.
No, we've got $233,050.68 in the bank at the current time.
So you're about 156, 157 short.
Yes.
Now, how did that happen? I mean,
well, it's been over a period of time. Part of it, of course, as I said, is because of loss of landlines, because that's what funds the 911 side mostly, and the loss of population, which also contributes to the loss of landlines.
And I noticed on here, when you're talking about the loss of population, that from 1990, we've gone from 72,000 to an estimated 54,402.
That's correct.
And that is a 24.9% decrease in population, and with regard to the landlines, even a larger percentage loss.
Yes.
So now I think when I looked yesterday at some of the information you provided me, that there is a provision that allows the board to adjust the 911 fee periodically, yearly, based on the consumer price index.
That's correct, yes.
And when was the last time that was done?
2011.
So there's been no rate increase for 9 years?
No, none.
And was that ever brought up?
Yes, it was brought up a time or two for the board to do that, and they consulted with the treasurer, who told them they had money and not to worry about it, basically.
And you're talking about what treasurer?
John DeBilliter.
Talking about the county treasurer?
Yes, county treasurer.
And was this ever brought up to the fiscal court before this court came in?
Yes, it was.
And
basically, we were told that the court wouldn't approve any kind of increase.
And I just basically, I think it's fair to say that I just found out about this situation a few days ago.
Right. I've been working on this for a few months, pulling numbers together and trying to find out just where or how long the funding has been going down.
So let's just say that this court does what the last court did, nothing.
Nothing.
What happens to our 911 system?
Our 911 system will go down to the point where the county would be subsidizing it totally if it were to stay in existence.
Does it jeopardize the 911 system?
Yes, it does. It jeopardizes the 911 system in a number of ways. Our ability to pay for our services at the post, plus the ability to maintain our radio communication systems, which is now, our radio system's almost 20 years old. We put it in with grants before. We've got another grant in now waiting to see if we get awarded this grant.
How much is that grant?
$979,000 to replace the infrastructure and the backbone of the radio system.
And I think you guys, the 911 board provides all the volunteer fire departments' radios.
Yes, we do. We provide radios for all the mobiles and a number of portables for each department, so they have constant communications when needed.
You've given us, I don't know that the court will act on this at this meeting, most likely. I think the members of the court need to digest this.
Okay.
But you have a proposal, and you have given us some various proposals. The current rate's $1.41, and we're losing landlines at a fairly decent clip. Is that correct?
That's correct. As cell service is better out in the county, we lose landlines. People are going away from it to cell phones. I wanted to add with cell phones, where the state collects 70-cent surcharge monthly on a cell phone, we only get about 80% of that money back.
And then 73% of it goes to the 911 dispatchers?
Yes, to pay their salaries.
So 73%, well, I don't know what that total would be, but most of the money that you're getting back on the landlines or the cell phones goes directly to the state police.
Yes, to pay their salaries.
So let me give the history as I see that you've done this. In 2000, the rate was raised from 93 cents to $1.30 by the fiscal court. And at that time, 19 years ago, the court voted to allow the 911 board to raise the rate annually based on the CPI, Consumer Price Index.
That's correct. They amended the 911 ordinance to allow that.
Which would be a few percent per year.
Right. It could be 2 or 3 cents. It could be a nickel.
And in 2009, it went from $1.30 to $1.35. So it goes 9 years without a rate increase, and it goes up a nickel.
Yes.
And then in 2011, they took the CPI, it looks like. Both of those rates were CPI.
Yes, they were.
So the court never voted to raise the 911 fee since 2000.
That's correct.
And there's been a nickel raise and then a 6-cent raise.
Yes.
This has some eerily similar issues with what we inherited when we walked in here on the solid waste system.
Yes. Well,
I mean, you know,
when you started looking at solid waste, it made me think, what's been going on with us? Where's our finances at? So I got with Frankie and we started putting some numbers together.
Frankie, have you looked at these numbers closely?
Yeah, we sat down and went over them before we had a 911 board meeting last week when it was presented to the board.
Well, my question is, you know, I've only been in office for roughly 8 months. Why would the other boards, why did they not at least take the CPI? Because here, it's the same thing with the garbage. You know, these small increments can be absorbed into people's budget, and then this gets dumped on this court because it's been neglected like a lot of other things. I don't want to point fingers, but, you know, if you look at what we're getting ready, what we have had to do and the decisions that we've had to make, it doesn't make you very popular when you're having to make these kind of decisions.
Right.
And you're taking money out of people who are on a fixed income. I mean, you're the 911 coordinator. Tell me exactly why the board wouldn't take it. I mean,
Well, some years it was kind of flat. There wasn't really anything to increase, maybe a penny at the very most. It was a low percentage. Other years, the people on the board either felt that they didn't want to do that, they wanted to go to the court, and then the court would say no, so.
did the court ever turn down any rate increases since you've been here?
I went to a judge one time for the court because the board asked me to see if they could raise it, and he said the court wouldn't do it.
And I'm not going to ask which judge it was because it really doesn't matter.
Right.
But you've given us a proposal here, and you based your estimates on different increases from $1.41 up to $2.50.
Correct.
You've got what happens if you do $2, $2.10, $2.20, $2.30, and $2.50. And so you're talking about $1.99. The most will be $1.09 a month increase per landline.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, you also base these numbers, these projections on 17,000 landlines.
That's correct.
But as we've already talked about, that number's going down every year.
Yes, it does.
As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about taking my landline out.
Well, as cell phone service improves around the county, most people do take them out.
And just out of curiosity of the people here in the courtroom, how many do have landlines if you just hold your hand up? So a few still do.
Yeah.
Some don't. The 911 board, as I understand it, did vote to ask for a $2, to raise it to $2.40. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why $2.40?
That would put them on a footing where they could have some money in reserve to maintain radio systems. Like I said, our system's 20 years old, and it needs to be updated.
Our garbage trucks are 20 years old. Some of them are close to it.
Right.
We've got equipment on the road lot that's 20 years old. I mean, some of this stuff's just wearing out.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is. Some of it's still doable. But, I mean, gentlemen, what are your recommendations on this? Do you want to table this till we come back and have some time to think about it till the next court meeting?
What do you think?
Judge, I'm just looking at some of these prices these other counties pay, like Floyd County. For businesses, it's 99 cents, and for residential, for businesses, $1.99, and residents, 99 cents.
Elliott County's $4.50.
Yeah, we're behind the ball on this. I agree with Doug,
Of the counties I looked at on that list, which that's a statewide list, the eastern Kentucky counties, our average is like 234.
Mm-hmm.
There's one county that puts the surcharge on the real estate tax, and that's $75 a year.
I just think if we don't take care of our 911 system, we're going to be in more trouble.
I mean, McGoffin County's $4. Lee County, one of the poorest counties in the state's $3. Laurel County's $3.50. Whitley County, $3.
Louise is $1.95. I mean,
Powell County, $4. Perry County, $3.75. Montgomery County, $3. Greenup's $2.50. I mean, I know the members of the court are aware of this. I think you gave all the members of the court copies of this.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it just seems to me that this court is having to make a lot more difficult decisions than what we've seen made in the past. I mean, we're not talking about state surplus sales and, some of the nonsense. But these decisions are not easy.
I know they're not.
Because, we had no choice but to vote to raise the solid waste fees, or else the system shuts down and you put, put the county behind the 8 ball in that regard.
I mean, we've got to have police protection in our county. We have to have ambulance services called in our county. And just like I say, you know, we're behind the ball right now. I mean, we've got to do something.
Well, I'm not going to ask if it's the inclination of the court to act on this today. I'm not going to ask for the members of the court to make the motion. I'll make the motion, and you guys, if there's no second on it today, then we'll come back and do it again. If you all want to address it today, but I'll make the motion to follow the recommendation of the 911 board and increase it to $240 per month. It's a 99-cent increase. I don't like it. I have to pay it. But like I said, I'm one of those folks that's thinking about taking the landline out because we never use it.
Well, in my situation, I can't take the landline out.
Because your business.
Business, if internet goes down, your phone goes down, you know,
And this only is for landlines, correct?
It's only landlines. It doesn't affect cell phone.
But if you live in a, you know, in a place where you have to have a landline, you need 911, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I don't think the taxpayers, you know, deserve not to have 911, so I mean.
Well, the thing that bothers me is how does this problem get to this point that we have to act on it? I mean, I know the answer to that. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. But, you know, at some point, and I hope the taxpayers recognize, the ratepayers, the customers of 911, recognize how we got into this mess. I mean, if this had been done a few cents a year, dime a year, or something like that, but when you don't have a rate increase
2011
for 9 years or 8 years, I mean, that just creates a problem. You know, Mountain Water District did the exact same thing. They went 17 years without a rate increase, and then when they get one, it's a massive increase to where it does impact people. So I'll make the motion to adopt the recommendation of the 911 board. If there's no second, then I totally understand. I don't want to put the members of the court in a bad spot by making the motion. So I'll make it. And if you all want to take a look at this, it won't hurt my feelings if you want to come back and wait till the next meeting. So that way, if you all have any other questions for Doug, but I mean, I'll say this much. If you raise it to 240, we're probably going to be coming back here in a year or so, and you're not going to have 17,000 landlines.
Probably not.
So
then that's going to drive the cost up more, right, Doug?
Well, it may, but I think from this point, I think the 911 board knows that they've got to keep up with it. I think they'll do the CPI.
Well, I think that's better than hitting it all at one time, you know.
Yeah. I think so. I think the ones there now understand what needs to be done and what they have to do.
I mean, you know, if something happens at my house with my wife or my kids, and, you know, we've had to call 911 before.
Right.
And you call 911 and it don't work.
You got a problem.
You got a problem. I mean, it's a matter of life or death. And I just don't understand how people couldn't recognize it for what it is. You know, like I said, they're $156,000 short in their checking account what they owe us.
This money is also used for radios and communications.
Yes, it is.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, if you got an emergency service, I mean, you know, when you need to.
Well, fire departments and everything depend on it.
Right.
I
You
mean,
know, dispatch has to talk to those responding units as they have to talk to dispatch, and dispatch got to have a path to page them out and get them out on the road.
And I've had some of the fire departments talk about how some of the handhelds are just not, I mean, think of what they go through.
Well, most of them were 18, 20 years old. I mean, we have a shop in the office over there where we repair radios, and we're seeing a lot of portables come in now that we can't fix. The parts aren't available anymore.
I've made the motion. If there's a second, if not, we'll come back and deal with it at some point down the road after.
I mean, you have, when you need 911, I mean, you got to have the service to be able to be there.
Yes, sir.
If there's all these cell phones out there that people use, is there a surcharge to call 911 from your cell phone?
Actually, the state put the surcharge on cell phones, which is 70 cents. Of that 70 cents that the state collects, we get about 80% of that back.
That figured into this equation here?
No, that's not figured into this because that changes quite a bit.
Jeff, what he says, that goes to, it doesn't come to the 911, it goes to the Pike Floyd County Wireless Board. We don't even see that.
No.
So as it stands right now, at the current rate, you're looking at $166,884 deficit.
156,000, I think.
156,000 change. So if you do nothing, you're gonna look at $150,000 deficit.
If we do, that's the money, that's just below what they owe us. That doesn't provide any money for radios, any of the, tech support, replacing the portables. That's just to pay what they currently owe.
So I'm looking at your projected revenue at $1.41 times 17,000, $287,640. I'm looking at your annualized projected expenses of $454,524. And besides what is owed to whoever, you're looking at another $166,000 deficit on top of that. So do nothing, not only will they be a deficit, you won't be able to pay back what you owe, and then you look at $1,000 more.
Is that right, Doug?
I think so.
Yeah, like I said, they owe us $383 right now for money that we've already spent, and then.
And because of the.
Is that gonna take care of us for a year or two?
Court's inability to either raise the CPI or take the recommendations of the 911 board, you're being forced to make a decision to go after this money because you've got to do something. Because if not, like Doug said, the 911 services, could be compromised and people without the pay their taxes and do the right thing. They need ambulance service for whatever reason or something breaking into their house.
Police, fire.
Police, fire, any type of stuff, and the 911 gets cut off, other people are in trouble. Am I understanding this?
Well, I mean, I think the most realistic thing is we're not going to be able to run their radio system.
That's going to be one of the big.
We probably can pay. The county will end up directly out of this treasury having to subsidize it, and then you're not going to have any money to keep this radio network running.
No,
that's the problem.
Well, the county shouldn't have to subsidize it, actually. I mean, it needs to run on its own if it can.
Well, that's one of the reasons the golf course is shut down. It didn't, and.
Right.
And Jeff, to that same point, we had a public meeting at Phelps over the garbage rates, and some gentleman said, well, my calculation says that, that we ought to generate $5 million. I said, that's right, it does, but it costs $7 million to run it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mix apples with oranges here, but going back to the garbage rate, like I said to you not too long ago, the taxes that were run on the Appalachian News Express were over $10 million in delinquencies out there. People aren't paying their garbage bills, but they're still trash. People aren't paying their taxes, but we're still providing the services. So, sadly, I don't think the court's got any other job to do right now. You've got to accept this, because if not, if you lose 911, this is infrastructure that attracts businesses, attracts people to come here. And if you do nothing to this thing, and our 911 is compromised or jeopardized or gone away with, who in their right mind is going to want to move to Pike County?
If you can't even, something as vital to a community, basic as 911 service, but that's, so there's a motion on the floor. If you want to do that, is there a second?
Second.
All right. I think that was a pretty much unanimous. That was a pretty strong statement. Is there any question or discussion?
I got one.
Commissioner Tackett.
Considering this is the first time I've got to look at this, I'm for helping 911 in every way. I own a business in this county.
Right.
Without 911, you're right, Jeff, nobody wants to come here. But I would like to have, is 2 more weeks going to break 911 to give us time to look at this? Is what?
No.
2
weeks long.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. No, 2 weeks won't break it.
Okay. That's the only questions I had.
Well, the matter before the court is whether to ratify the proposal by the 911 board to increase the rate to $240 per residential landline. I think Commissioner Booth has.
I think then it's just actually going up 99 cents more than what it is right now.
It's going up 99 cents.
That's all it is. And I mean, if you live in Phelps or someplace where, or even over in Pond Creek where you don't have cell phone service, you need that landline to, to call 911. I think.
And that's why we kept it up in the head of Island Creek,
This, and two, this isn't a problem, it's just with us, it's all over the state. Revenues for 911 that are based on landlines is going down everywhere. And
the state's going to have to act on this to change the formula, Jeff. It was controversial when I was down there how they did it, but they're going to have to change the way they're doing it because people are moving away from landlines.
Right, and the state 911 system or 911 association has lobbied legislature to do something in the past few years, but so far nothing's been done.
All right.
Let's put more burden on the counties, what's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any other questions or discussions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
No.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Along those same lines, we're not going to have we're not going to address the compensating rate issue this court meeting. I'm going to be distributing this letter to the members of the court. And then, like I said, we're going to have a meeting with the library board today to discuss that issue. The next item is the approval to renew a lease PRO 4471 for year 2020 with the Finance and Administration Cabinet Department for Facilities and Support Services for property located at 36 Mingo Street, Phelps. This is the Cabinet for Health and Family Services Office, and the lease is the amount of $5,400 annually. Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. The next item is approval to renew lease PRO 4387 for year 2020 with the Finance and Administration Cabinet Department for Facilities. This is the Belfry Courthouse Office for Cabinet for Health and Family Services. The lease amount is $0. Can I ask a question for somebody who's been here longer than I have? Why are they not paying rent there? I mean, is there a reason the state's not paying rent there?
Oh, no, I was going to ask the same question.
Well, I'm going to move that we pass over this because they pay rent to private landowners and private property holders all over Kentucky. They should be paying something to us because it's driving up our power bill. It costs us money to clean it. It costs us money to maintain it. So, I don't think it hurts anything to move this to the next meeting, and I'd like to have a conversation. Frankie, if you could reach out, or let me say this, Judge Hickman, can you reach out to them and find out why they're not paying us any money on this?
Because they sure don't care to complain, do they, Paul?
No, I mean,
They complain a lot over there.
State's got a lot more money than the county's got, so
Exactly.
It's my motion that we pass over this. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, please just call the roll on the motion to pass over.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. The next item is also for, this is the State Police Firing Range, approval to renew the lease with Finance Administration. This is at Coal Hollow, Island Creek. There's actually no facility there. As far as I know, there's no cost to the county. I don't have a problem with them because they do use that as the training. I think the city police also use it. Maybe the sheriff's office.
The jail and the sheriff's department both.
So it's used by everybody. This is probably more of a technicality. Is there a motion to approve lease, renew lease PRO 3214 for the State Police Firing Range?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. All right, the next item is something that was also dumped in our lap last week. Commissioner Tackett was contacted by a Fish and Wildlife officer. There, as you know, we had a trail ride at Lick Creek, had a great turnout this past weekend. But we were made aware of the fact that there are some professional guide services that are bringing people in to hunt elk, and they were going to be bringing them into the Middlefield area where we have a lease with the Corps of Engineers for that property. And when that was done, I basically requested that it be marked as no hunting until such time as we could get to the bottom of this. This one guide service, I think, was charging $15,000 for an elk hunt. Commissioner, is that correct? What they were?
Judge, I want to back up there. From what I can understand is the left side of 460 has never been allowed for elk hunting. In the previous courts, I don't know if it's last, they'd worked a deal with the coal company and the Corps to not allow no elk hunting on the property that was leased. When the maps come out for elk hunting and the fish, and if I'm wrong on this, Fish and Wildlife from Frankfurt or whoever can come and tell me I'm wrong, but this is just the way it was presented to me. That when they showed their map of elk hunting being open, it showed the property that was leased by the county as being open. And I think the Corps spent quite a bit of money up there building elk viewing stations. Me and Judge Hickman even rode up there back in the early spring, and they was elk all over the place. But there's been a lot of misunderstanding from last Wednesday till about 9:30 this morning at the telephone calls I have received. I think some of the other commissioners has received them along with the judge too. And this is the situation that they was going in, they was coming from out of town as a business and running it on the county's property or the surrounding properties. And I don't know if they have permission or not. That's the lowdown that I've got on the situation.
So we've been contacted by people who say, you know, we've run dogs in there, we've hunted deer in there, we've squirrel hunted. I think what our intent was just simply to preclude elk hunting because it doesn't make sense to have an elk restoration area and try to bring people in for tourism with elk and then have them all harvested. So it would be my motion that we change the signs at Middlefield to only ban elk hunting in that area.
I second it.
So we have a motion, a second. Any question or discussion? All right, and Paul, can we get these signs changed out this week to where it says, you know, we've had those signs up, we could just probably use the same ones, just have them say about order fiscal.
I think we might be able to find it.
Paul, I can get with you if you want me to, and we can go from there. And it was never said anything about running dogs.
No, I mean,
You know, they have last year they had a juvenile diabetes hunt up there. The local Beagle Club did. I think they had 156 entries at $25 a head. And from what I understand, the town was just loaded with people in there spending money, and that's the grounds that they use. But nowhere on that sign it said anything about running of hounds or squirrel dogs or rabbit dogs or anything on that.
And I did send a letter to the Commissioner of Fish and Wildlife, basically asking them to correct the map that's on their website to show that that area is not open for elk hunting. That was a mistake that Fish and Wildlife made. And the other issue is if we've got people with professional guide services that are coming in and charging those kind of fees in Pike County, I don't think any of them are registered. And Fish and Wildlife has told us that there have been substantial problems, and I think some of them have been cited for some of the conduct that they've done around the state. So if we identify those, we need to get those to the occupational tax office and make contact with them. So Vince, why don't you take a look on the line and see if you can find any guide services that are advertising to bring people into eastern Kentucky, and specifically Pike County. All right. So we have a motion and a second to limit hunting, to ban hunting in the middle field area for elk, allowing all other legal hunting. We have a motion and a second. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item is to establish a date and time for trick or treat. I know I've got 3 people at home that'll be, one's probably too old for it. He's too cool now to do that, but I have 2 others that'll be excited. It was my motion that we declare October 31st, 2019 as Halloween in Pike County, Kentucky, for purposes of trick or treating. And is there a second? My kids will be ecstatic over this that I made the motion. So we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
The next item is the awarding of bids. Mr. Fannin, anything, sir? All right. I do need you to get with Mr. Little on the guardrail issue for Ford Mountain, and let's start working that up. We need to figure out how much we need and get a bid ready to go on that. Because like I said, I want to get those projects started as soon as we can. Next item is Pike County Road Supervisor's Report. Mr. Little, we've got the report and the spreadsheet here, and hopefully that will be put back up on Facebook and on the Pike TV channel like it was previously. Is there anything you need to add to this, or anything you need to update the court on?
The only thing I can say is that we began blacktopping over in Stopover today. We're using all the max that we have. Larry even let us use his off the landfill, so this is part of that flex money.
All right. How close are we coming to having all the flex money, all the paving with the flex?
Well, for the flex, that will wind up Commissioner Booth. I think Commissioner Tackett lacks 4 roads, and Commissioner Robson lacks 2.
And when you say when they're lacking, you're talking about in their...
I'm talking about in their area, in their area.
In the primary district.
Their primary district, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fabian, when do you think you'll get into Ford Bottom?
I'm hoping that we should finish up and stop over this week. So by
it'll
the
be next
beginning of
week.
next week, we should be able to get in Ford Bottom and start knocking those out for you.
Okay.
When is the blacktop plants closing down? Fabian, have you had any wind of that, or?
No, it's usually sometime in November, but it's, they base that off the weather. If the weather's fine, they'll run it a little longer.
Okay.
I mean, if this weather stays like this, it probably won't shut down. So
It's been warm, mate.
it's been hot.
And on this flex money, I'd like to just explain to the people out here that's watching today or listening on Facebook or TV when it airs, this flex money, we get it every year from the state. And we're picking the worst roads first, and then we're moving on. And I know these roads didn't get in this shape overnight, and I'm not saying that previous court, 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, or whatever, but just give us some time, 9 months, and we're still trying, and we're going to continue trying for the next 4 years. But each year, if we can put a little more in our districts or in this county, that's what we're going to do.
And that's why it's important for us to reach out to the Transportation Cabinet, regardless of who the governor is, and ask for help.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, we're getting 3 times as much in discretionary money, roughly, not quite, but almost 3 times in discretionary money as we received in the flex money.
Right. So I don't have anything else.
All right. We have the approval of the Pike County Commissioners' recommended road maintenance list. Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion or anything that needs to be added? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. That brings us to the treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy, your first item.
Authorize payment of the expenditure approval list dated September 13th, 2019, and any other utility and telephone bills received before checks are run.
And have the members of the court had an opportunity to review this list?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Commissioner Tackett, have you had an opportunity to review it? Yes. All right. Judge Higgins?
Yes.
Anything that, any questions about any of these bills? A lot of it looks like basics. Any questions or concerns about any of these expenditures?
No, we just had a really expensive month, didn't we?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean.
Road works, a lot of it, blacktop.
And some of this money, I think, will we get back, Frankie, from the?
We've got about $130,000 in on blacktop to Mountain Enterprise this month, and about $100,000 of it is that flex money that he's been putting down.
And then we'll get part of that back.
We'll get all that back.
Okay.
So
we're
but we have
spending
to
it
pay it
now,
up
but
front.
okay.
Judge, there's something else I'd like to explain when Fabian was up here, is letting the people know. Most of All Hollows in Pike County is longer than a mile long. I mean, there's nobody going to disagree with that. And what is it the cost on pulling a straight mile of blacktop, Fabian? Is it 49 to 50,000 for a straight mile? Is it a little?
About 60.
So,
you know, if you think you're getting, if you think you're getting $350,000, you're getting about five straight miles of blacktop.
Exactly. That's why I just want them to know that we are, I mean, you know, I've heard people say, well, you put it through too thin, but, you know, what's the guidelines of that, Fabian?
Well, I don't put it anywhere any thinner than an inch.
Right.
Put that kind of context about what you were saying. We've got 6 lots, each lot gets 62,000 placement. You're not getting a mile per acre.
Exactly. So,
And then and Fabian, how much did we budget for blacktop for each lot in addition to the flex money?
86,500 for each lot is the way it broke down.
So you're talking roughly 150,000. So you're getting about 2.5 miles of blacktop a lot.
And if you was 2, then you'd end up getting about 2 miles.
Yeah.
But basically, you're better off doing it that way.
Well, you can't, if you put it on too thin, you're just wasting money.
Exactly.
So, all right. So, is there a motion to approve the expenditure list dated September 13, 2019?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Stacy.
Acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's August 2019 financial statement.
Is there a motion to authorize, acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's August 2019 financial statement?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Last thing I have would be to acknowledge receipt of the sheriff and the clerk's 2550 reports for August 2019.
I just have a brief question about this. We talked about the fact that the sheriff will typically run.
He runs a negative until property tax collections, and then that's when that's his revenue month is through November through January. So
Is it common for the clerk to run a shortfall?
Hers is not as much.
53, 534, 54.
Right. She has positive and negative months. I really don't know a trend of when her collections are high or when they're low. That'd be more of a question for her.
And I would think it could be higher toward the end of the year, too.
It could be.
Is there a motion to authorize receipt of the clerk's 25 and sheriff's 2550 reports? And do we include the treasurer's August 2019 report in that as well? Can we do those as one?
We did that
Oh, we did, okay. So it's the motion to acknowledge receipt of the sheriff and clerk's 2550 report. We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item is, executive session. Mr. King, would you please instruct the public and the court on the Kentucky Revised Statutes applicable to enter executive session?
Yes, we'll need a vote to enter executive session as authorized by KRS 61810, subsection C, to discuss pending litigation, and subsection F, to discuss specific personnel matters.
All right. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are in recess for executive session. We need a motion to exit from executive session. Is there a motion? Motion. Motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, and we're waiting on their personnel director, and as soon as he gets here, we'll be ready to go. They're copying something. Another matter we've got to take up. Until we take that up, let's go ahead and speed this up. Mr. King, do you have anything today? And let's go ahead and do the Pike County Department Supervisor's comments. JJ, you have anything today, sir? All right. Gregory? No, sir. Ms. Vanover? Ms. Thacker, you have anything to add? Mr. Ratliff? Larry? And Mr. Morley? Doug? And Mr. Kaiser? And Mr. Little? Mr. Williamson? Preacher, you have anything back in the back? Jimmy Dale? All right. So let's speed that up.
Hey, Judge, I would like to say that we had our county, the truck auction yesterday down in Alabama, but I haven't got the results of how the trucks did. Should get that and have it for the next court meeting.
All right, thank you very much. If you get that number, would you text it to me or call me? Just call me with it. It's probably the easiest way. 'Cause I'm trying not to, I don't do too many texts. So, then we don't have anyone signed up for public comment, I don't believe, do we? All right. So we'll stand at ease until the rest of our folks get here. So we are, Mr. Maynard, please present my personnel recommendations to the court, sir.
Yes, Judge. The following recommendations are for approval. The first is to acknowledge the retirement of Tim Crawford, effective 9/30/19. Approval to hire Joshua Dotson as foreman at Solid Waste Area 1 at a 4A rate of pay. Approval to move Tracy Lyons from tire changer to a mechanic at the maintenance garage at a 5H rate of pay plus longevity. And that is all.
Gentlemen, those are my recommendations, and that is my motion. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? I do want to briefly address something we're doing this a little bit different than it's been done in the past. When we have an opening for a position, we're opening it up to applications both from within the county and from without the county. And Ms. Thacker, who is one of our new hires, would tell you that I don't sit in on these interviews. I know a lot of the people, most all the people who are applying, I know them. And we are not making these decisions based upon politics. We're having the department heads in the department that they're going to be interviewing for to do the interviews. Judge Hickman has hired hundreds, if not thousands, of people over his career, both at Brock McVeigh and then working at Pikeville Medical Center. That's why we brought him in, is he's got the business experience. And the way I look at this, if we've made Chuck Morley the manager of the solid waste department, and he sits through an interview process, I think they finished at about 6:30 last night, is when they finished. If we hire someone because of politics and we don't honor the recommendations, and what we had today is the 4 people who were in the interviews, they each made a list of who they thought was the best candidate. Interestingly, the person that was hired for the job was on the top of all 4 lists. And it's not someone I even know. But if we hire the best people, it will give us the best chance of providing the best service with the most transparency, and will help this county move forward. And I think that's another example of what this court's trying to do differently. We're trying to give the people we put in management roles the authority. Now, if we put someone in because of politics and they don't get the job done, then that's not Chuck's fault, or it's not Paul's fault, or it's not Fabian's fault. If we give them the person they think is the best candidate and they don't get the job done, well, then it goes back to them. But you can't expect people to manage and to supervise when you don't take their opinions and their recommendations into consideration when filling these positions. So I guess we're ready to vote, is that correct? So if there's any other question or discussion on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. We have before us a matter that we tabled previously, and this is the contract with Omnitrax for the GPS monitoring. We had an issue that we have addressed with regard to the contract that dealt with the choice of venue and the choice of law provisions. And there has been some changes made to that. It's not exactly what we wanted, but it is a much more favorable provision than what was previously included. Is there a motion to enter into and authorize the judge executive to sign all contracts necessary to enter into a lease with Omnitrax for GPS monitoring for the Pike County Fiscal Court vehicle fleet?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next matter is we have, as part of this, is there a motion to notify Verizon that we are terminating effective immediately the GPS monitoring contract with Verizon?
Motion.
Judge, can you modify that to be effective 10/1? That'll give us time to get those units in and put on the trucks.
Okay. So the motion would be, is there a motion to notify Verizon that we are terminating the contract with them for GPS monitoring effective October 1st, 2019?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. That brings us to the Pike County Deputy Judge Executive's comments. Judge.
Yes, Judge, I do have a couple of things today. One, last week at the State Division of Solid Waste meeting, where it was a recycling meeting, the fish trap cleanup came up, and Pike County was recognized in front of the entire state as having stepped up to the plate and took ownership. And I thought it was very nice of them to do that. Sharon Hall was with me, and Commissioner Booth was with me. So it was really good to be recognized for something positive, and that having been done in front of the entire state. The other thing is the intent to file for the landfill has been completed by Geosyntec, and I received it yesterday in the mail. So we have 4 binders, and if the commissioners, judge, or anybody else would like to stop in and review those binders, it's a big step forward. So we're moving forward with the landfill permit.
All right. Thank you very much. Pike County Commissioners' comments. District 1 Commissioner Ronnie Roberts.
I just want to thank everybody that works for this fiscal court, doing a good job. I want to thank the jail for all the work they're doing for us too. And Jason and I went to see Diane in the hospital, but she must have got out pretty quick. So does anybody know how she's doing? Okay, well, we miss her. We wanted her to come back to work. And that's about all I've got to say today.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tackett, District 2.
Well, Ronnie, I had Diane's name wrote down here to check on her. So Pam, thank you for letting us know. Pike County had a busy weekend. We had a horse trail ride at Lick Creek Saturday. There's about 21 trailers. I won't say there's probably, what, Chuck, 40? How many, did you get to? 41 signed in. Had a great time up there. Everybody enjoyed themselves. You know, it's a beautiful park. We got some more big things. I think Sharon's not here, but we're looking at adding some stuff to that park. Maybe putting some showers in the bathroom, and it's something that we can promote for the lake trails. It's something will bring people to Pike County and spend money in Pike County. Another thing was our car cruising at Pike Central. It was the 5th one. It was the last one for the year. I think there was 85 cars, probably around 175 people was there. Had inflatables for the kids. Everybody enjoyed themselves. The weather was a little hot, but water sales was real good for the vendor was there. So, and that's about it. I mean, I just want to thank the employees of this county. You know, somewhere down the line, everybody forgets something, but we rebound and get back and get back on the track to get things done. And I just want to thank you all for that, not only in this courthouse, but out on these road lots and the solid waste lots.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, Judge, I'll tell you, I just want to thank our employees also. Larry and them up at that landfill, it just amazes me every time we go in there how good it looks at our landfill down there. And Chuck with solid waste, I think we're getting closer and closer on our seeing what we need. Hopefully on our 4-day week, I think we're getting closer and closer and agreeing on all that. Paul and his crew's doing an outstanding job. Our road crews are doing a good job. But I swear I've never seen a bunch like Phelps that worries so much about their road work. It seems like them boys just go above and beyond where they all worry about what they get done and everything. Me and like Judge Hickman said, we had a good, I thought we had a real good trip to, with our solid waste and recycling that we went to this past week. It really worked out real well. We learned seemed like a whole lot, and it was really enjoyable to be recognized right off the bat down there. And hopefully next little bit maybe we'll be in Ash Lick over at Smith Fork doing a little bit of work, getting some work done over there. So that's all I have, Judge.
Gentlemen, thank you all very much, and I want to thank everyone for being here today. I don't believe I've had any other comments other than what I had previously made, and with that being said, I'd like to ask Brother Jimmy Dell if he'd say the benediction for us and close us out with a word of prayer.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for another day. Thank you for all your blessings. Remember this court here. Let us all do what's best for Pike County. Remember our sick people and people who's got death in their families. Remember all the little children in this county. And may all of us work together for the better benefit of Pike County. We thank you, Lord, for everything. In Jesus' name we pray and ask, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion for adjournment? Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Roberts. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Tackett. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?